Hi friends, Jenny at Clover and Violet here, and today I'm going to show you a new way of chain piecing patchwork. You may have seen this before, but it's new to me and I've only tried it a couple times, but I was so impressed with how this patchwork method worked out that I had to create a video to show you. Take a look. These are the patchwork rows and they're all connected to each other and your patchwork stays in order. So this is a great way to piece simple patchwork so that you don't accidentally mix up what order your fabrics are in. And then we're just going to sew these rows together and you'll have a perfect patchwork panel. I've sewn the rows together in the video, but I wanted to show you the way the patchwork looked before the video so that you would know what the goal we're achieving is. All right, let's get started. For this chain piecing method, what I'm going to do is I have my rows all stacked up. I have the furthest left piece on top, and then they're all stacked up just in the order that they're going to go across. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the first piece, and then I'm going to sew the second piece to it and continue on down the road. But when I chain piece them, I'm not going to snip the pieces apart at all until I've completed all 5. There's 5 rows for this specific project. So I will sew the first piece and the second in each of the 5 rows, chain piecing so that I'm not cutting my thread in between, and then I'm going to sew the next one on. So for this method, you will need 1 scrap of fabric to use as a leader or an ender, just to make things a little simpler. And then we're just going to chain piece those rows. So I'm going to push this back up to the top. I know that's out of your view, but I'm going to start with piece number 1, and then I'm always going to put the next piece on top of it, and this is going to help me keep them in order. Okay, so I'm going to start with my leader or ender piece. I'm just using a small scrap of fabric. I'm going to sew on that, and then I'm going to take my next piece, line it up. So remember that the top piece was my furthest left piece, and then I've placed my next piece to the right sides together. And then just like regular chain piecing, I'm going to not cut my thread, grab my next set of pieces, and place the top piece, and then fold the next piece over top of it. With the other 3 stacks. Okay, now this is where this method gets slightly different than your traditional chain piecing. I'm going to leave these 5 rows attached. I'm going to clip my little ender piece off and sew on it again. So now I have my 5 rows, and I'm going to open this piece at the top. So now I have the leftmost piece and then the next one, and I'm just going to take the next piece in line without disattaching these and place it face down and sew that next piece. All right, then we're going to open up the next one, grab our next piece down again, place it right sides together, and then sew the next piece without clipping this thread or the next one. And again, here's our next piece. We're going to grab the next one, right sides together. And we'll grab our ender one more time. And now we again have this chain of pieces, and you can see how they're just falling into line right here. And so we'll grab our last pieces in the same order and then just attach them again. A chain pieced bag panel started, and this will work of course for any sort of patchwork, but these are all attached in the order they go. And so what we're going to do next is take them to the iron and iron our seams in opposite directions so that they nest, and we'll have our panel sewn together in no time. So let's take this over the iron and get those seams pressed. All right, now that we have pressed all of our seams, you can see them going in opposite directions. This allows the seams to nest. We're going to take our large piece and we're just going to fold the top row together and match up the seams. If you like to pin, or if this is one of the first times you're doing this, I like to place a diagonal pin across these two seams like this. And that will just keep your seams in place. You can see the two seams are matching up right there. And you're just going to do that for all of the seams. The pieces will face opposite directions, and then we're just going to sew along that edge at 1/4 inch. And then this time I am going to snip my row off. And now we have a neatly joined row with perfectly matched corners, and we're just going to fold the next row down. Same thing. Line up your nesting seams and sew at 1/4 inch. And now we have 2 joined rows. Let's get the third. Or I guess we have 3 rows joined with 2 seams. Let's do the third seam. And the last one right here. As before. matching up our seams, and then sewing with 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, and here we have our patchwork panel all ready to go. Now, for one last step, when I make simple patchwork like this, and I have my nested seams, I like to press my center seams open. For this method, there's a tiny loop of thread. And so what I do is I cut all those little loops open, because there's often not enough room in the loop to press the seams flat if you're pressing them open. If you press your seams off to one side, then it's not a problem at all. But just see this small loop right here? I'm just gonna snip that. So that's my last step. I'm gonna snip all these loops, and then I will press all of my seams open along the rows. I just feel like that makes your simple patchwork lay a little bit flatter. So I'll just go to my iron and press the seams like so. And then here is my finished patchwork panel. And so this is all ready to get ready and quilt up and make into whatever you like. I hope that you enjoyed that patchwork method and that you try it and it brings you as much joy as it brings me to get my pieces together so much more quickly. Thanks for watching.